The Prestige movie review. So this movie is by Christopher Nolan. Before I saw this movie, I was primarily familiar with Christopher Nolan through the movie Memento. Memento, if you haven't seen it, it's a brilliant film. It's one of those films that to say too much about it spoils it. But I can say that there are a number of twists along the way, and there are a number of pieces that kind of appear mysterious at first, but kind of once you've watched the whole movie, it kind of all fits together. It's a really clever movie that way. So around the time The Prestige came out, I began hearing good things about it. People were saying it was similar to Memento, kind of same type of thing, a very clever movie with some mystery and some twists in it. And so I decided to check it out. I watched it with a friend. We watched it together. And indeed, it does live up to the hype. There's not just one twist as you watch this movie. There are several, followed by a huge twist at the end. Now, my friend, who was watching the movie with me, claimed that he actually figured it out and he saw the big twist coming. And indeed, there are some clues scattered throughout the movie. Me, it took me completely by surprise. But then, after we finished the movie and we started thinking about it, kind of in retrospect, the nitpicking began. And we began to say things like, now that I think about it, this part doesn't completely make sense. Why didn't they just do this thing or that thing instead of what they did? In fact, if held under close examination, very little of the plot actually makes a lot of sense in real life. The characters take leaps of logic that are questionable, and they deceive each other with plot devices which may work in the movie world, but wouldn't hold up in real life. And in fact, if you want to get into it, really the whole basis for the plot, obsession and revenge, is probably carried much farther than would be actually sustainable in actual real life. But then I think this is true of Memento as well. Memento is a film that, as you're watching it, completely blows you away. But then if you stop and think about it, you're like, oh, but this part or that part doesn't actually completely make sense, and that doesn't actually work. Again, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil the movie. But if you think about Memento, there actually are a lot of loose ends. But while you're watching it, you kind of get carried away by the momentum, and you don't actually realize this until the next day that there are actually several loose ends on it. So the same thing with The Prestige. And that's not to say I enjoyed the movie any less for it. Like the story of the magicians it tells, the movie pulls off a lot of sleight of hand tricks that fall apart under close examination. But you're more than willing to be deceived at the time.